Let's talk about SmackDown from October the 1st, 2021. I separated this from the draft because I don't know how much I'm going to talk on here, and I really only got like an hour. So there's a lot of things to talk about. First, the King of the Ring will be back starting next week on the quote season premiere of SmackDown. The season premiere of SmackDown, even though the draft won't actually be in place until 2 weeks after the fact. Whatever. But we're going to have the King of the Ring and the Queen's Crown tournaments. And they will conclude in is it Jeddah or Iridia? Saudi Arabia. And you know what? I'm good with that. I love the idea. It's actually great branding. Crown Jewel, Queen's Crown, King of the Ring. It's a lot of royalty in this joint. I like this. It needs to be a yearly thing, or at least until they run out of Saudi money, whatever that is, which they probably won't. They will more than likely get a re-up on that Saudi money. I like it. I don't really have, until I know who's in it. Like, this week would have been a great week to do qualifiers, which is what they used to do when I was a kid and the King of the Ring actually mattered because it was a pay-per-view. You had to qualify to even get into the King of the Ring tournament. So it would have been great if they did like a King of the Ring, Queen of the Ring qualifier kind of deal. It would have been dope. That would have been nice. But they didn't. They didn't even announce a bracket or anything. So I'm guessing, the brackets won't actually be out until probably middle of the day, Friday next week. They don't start anything on Raw anymore. Everything starts on SmackDown now. So I'm excited for this. I actually like this idea. This should be a pretty good push for somebody, as long as they don't do silly gimmicks. I do not want anybody who coming out of this thing to literally be wearing crowns and to literally have robes. But what are we kidding? If you call yourself the King of the Ring, they're going to make you wear a crown and you're going to look silly. It's all about who is it going to be. Now, no, of course, we talked about this. Xavier Woods has been licking his chops about this King of the Ring thing literally for months. Years, actually. It's been quite a while. And Xavier Woods is the only one of the New Day who hadn't got a singles push. And I'm thinking it might be his year, but I think it'll be a cool thing if he got to the finals and really built it up as, this is something he really dreamed of since he was a little boy. And then he gets beat. By who? I don't know. Doesn't matter at that point, does it? It could be Cross. It could be Keith Lee. It could be anybody who's going to absolutely kill his dream. Got to be a heel though, and I really like that idea. The Queen's Crown. There's a lot of women who could use it. No 4 horsewomen. Bayley's not going to be there anyway, but Charlotte also said she's not going to be in it, and she said she didn't want to be in it. Becky's not going to be in it. She's defending her title. Bianca's not going to be in it, and Sasha's not going to be in it. So we got a good opportunity here to make somebody with this Queen's Crown tournament. That's the exciting thing, is that you have a lot of women on the Raw and SmackDown rosters who aren't really doing anything and could really benefit from being the first ever Queen's Crown winner. Now, knowing WWE, they'll probably do something like give it to Asuka. Like, it's just like, well, we don't know what to do. Can't give it to the 4 horsewomen. Give it to Asuka. So Bianca Belair's getting in that second tier class too, where they don't know what to do. Give it to her. So that's my guess. Is they're probably going to say, all right, we're gonna. Well, is Asuka still injured? I think Asuka's still injured. She might not be back yet. If Asuka's not back yet, my guess is they'll probably start looking at the lower tiers, even under them, which is, again, good, because there are still women who are scraping the bottom looking for absolutely anything that could get them over. You still got Zelina Vega, you got Liv Morgan, you got Carmella, you got Toni Storm, heavens to Betsy, you might have Doudrop or somebody like that. So you have some options for the women's side, and that's actually going to be the most exciting for me, because you want to see who the next woman they're going to push is. And they could do something like give it to Rhea Ripley, which is, that would put Rhea Ripley in that Bianca Belair, Asuka category where we don't know what to do. Give it to the second tier horsewomen, you know. But I'm still excited for it because I want to see what they're going to do with that. The King of the Ring, excited for it. Not so much because I can just see them doing goofy shit like putting them in a crown and all that kind of stuff. But in any event, the tournaments ought to be great. They ought to be fun. The matches will no longer be cold. There will be matches that matter. Hopefully they do something slick and the tournament will be like really good and it'd be like a great work rate tournament, right? Yeah, right. All right, so let's get into the show proper. Let's get into this. So Roman Reigns comes out. He got a new shirt, and whenever Roman's got a new shirt, it's time to make that money, cash them checks. His shirt says "We the Ones." So after Baltimore acknowledges him, Paul Heyman takes over. He gloats that the Demon is no longer undefeated, and that these people are Baltimoreans, which was a great line. Says that we look forward to Crown Jewel, which will not be taking place in Suplex City. Brock Lesnar then arrives, and Paul Heyman flees. Roman and Brock face off. They fight. Roman throws the first punch, which is a surprise that the heel would throw the first punch. You know, well, in a face-to-face endeavor. Like attacking him from behind or something like that, I could see. But him standing toe-to-toe with Brock like a babyface is interesting. He gets suplexed twice. Then the Usos come in, they get flattened. And then they leave Brock in the ring. And Brock is there like, oh yeah. You know, it's on, daddy. So later in the show, Jeff Hardy is drafted to SmackDown. He's super excited about it until Brock shows up. And then Jeff, in uncharacteristic fashion, backs down from Brock and just walks away. And I just looked at that and was like, man, we're off to a bad start already. That is completely unlike Jeff Hardy. That's unlike any babyface. You know, it's one thing to be, you know, concerned about Brock. It's another thing to just be like, you know what, I had something to say. I was in a good mood. Then this, you know, human snowman just walked over here and I was just kind of like, you know what, not interested. I'm out of here. That's very heelish. Come on. Do Jeff better than this. Jeff deserves better. Come on. Anyway, Brock says, thanks to his good friend Paul Heyman, he is now a free agent and can do whatever he wants. And that's really all he had to say. Brock did a backstage promo. Can you believe it? And it was actually decent. And it was actually in English. Very interesting stuff. Riveting, if I say so myself. So directly from there, we get Roman. He's in his room stewing. In his office, rather. Stewing, locker room, whatever. Stewing. Asking Paul, is he good friends with Brock? And Paul is like, and he says, are we good friends? And then he says, you're my tribal chief. He's such a sniveling. He snivels so well. He says, well, if you look out for me, you're looking out for my family. Then he says he wanted to know why the Usos weren't drafted to SmackDown. And Paul had 100 excuses, but they weren't in the draft pool this time. They weren't there. They couldn't draft the Usos. And then he says, you know, I'm the wise man. I got it all figured out. We're going to handle it on Raw. I'm the wise man. He's like, you the wise man, huh? You the wise man when I say you the wise man. And then, yes, my tribal chief. My tribal chief. But he said, okay, we're going to stick to the plan. But you need to make sure that the Usos are drafted to SmackDown. And so he's given this mission to go to SmackDown to make sure that the Usos, well, go to Raw rather, to make sure the Usos are drafted to SmackDown. So he, of course, he's sharp tight to the point. So he gets off his ass and goes, presumably to Raw right now, to make sure that the Usos are going to be drafted to SmackDown. When Paul leaves, Roman looks at Jimmy and Jay and says, you know, I want you to go with him. And if this thing doesn't go how he wanted to go, and you guys are not drafted to SmackDown, leave him for dead on Raw. And I was like, ooh, I like that. I like that. That was a great hook. That's a great hook for you to watch Raw. That was smart. Whoever came up with that, genius. I wouldn't even thought of that. Because I'm already railing off of people who are getting drafted on shows that they're already on. So frustrating. In any event, this is a great hook for Raw. Because now when Paul Heyman shows up, Heyman's going to be back there trying to finagle and and make deals and do whatever he possibly can do to get the Usos to stay on SmackDown. Of course, they're blowing it up because there's going to be some inconsistencies in storytelling here. The Usos were already on Raw, and they could only do the brand invitational once a quarter, right? If they're going to be on Raw this Monday, that would be twice in one quarter. Now, some people want to say, man, who cares? And I'm in that school of thought that I just want to make sure that we all on the same page here and realize that in order for the Usos to fulfill this story, they have to appear on a show they're not supposed to be on. So, but it says a lot also, and it tells a great story about Roman, his authority, his power, and his and what he's looking to achieve here. Roman has always kind of been above the rules anyway, which is a good reason why I mentioned that the brand invitational, right? Is Roman's already kind of doing whatever he wants. So he's kind of like, well, these boys ain't supposed to be on Raw. Who cares? I'm Roman Reigns. I'm sending the Usos to Raw. Like, it is what it is. We'll figure it out after the fact. So this is excellent. It's showing that Roman doesn't respect the rules. He's trying to manipulate the system, which is what he was trying to do before with Adam Pearce. They slowed up with his long talking segments. Since the crowd has come back, they haven't really done too many of them. They haven't done too many of his theatrical segments. They've been keeping his stuff simple. But this is the first time where he actually felt like it was the middle of the Thunderdome again. Because, he showed a lot of emotion, the frustration about, the Usos not getting drafted. The jealousy of Brock Lesnar, and Paul's relationship, that's good stuff. I like that. I love that stuff. These little subtleties is making him, he's obviously already the best in the business. But these subtleties is showing that he's not resting on his laurels. He's, it's not just everybody saying he's the best and he's kind of like, okay, it is what it is. It's like, no, he's taking this thing seriously. And I enjoyed that. I like that. All right, so let's get into the rest of the show. Kevin Owens gets defeated by Happy Corbin, who has now had a buddy named Madcap Moss, who is his personal comedian, who tells really bad jokes and wears yellow suspenders. Madcap Moss. For like 40 minutes, I would just say it to myself over and over again. Madcap Moss. Where do you think that came from? Who the hell uses the word madcap? Where does that come from? And you know how many people have probably Googled the word madcap and was posting on Twitter what the word madcap means? I don't even care what it means. It doesn't make any sense, right? But in the purpose of storyline, Happy Corbin is always happy because he's a millionaire. He's happy. But now he's got a guy whose job it is to make him laugh. That's Madcap Moss's job. He's basically a court jester. I don't look. If you're Riddick Moss and they say to you, sit at home for months or come do this Madcap Moss thing, you're going to do the Madcap Moss thing. I mean, why sit at home? You need a character. You need a personality anyway. But this name and this role is dumb. I'm going to give it a chance to develop, But if these two are just going to be two laughing idiots like Batman villains, that's not going to be too much fun to be had. Kevin Owens has virtually said nothing and done nothing but get beat up by Baron Corbin for the last 3 weeks. I think it's safe to say that he's out. Usually a character like Kevin Owens would at least have something to say, but he didn't. He took. Are they calling it the Happy Days? His finisher move now, because somebody yelled Happy Days when he did it outside the ring, and then he did it again inside the ring to pin him. It was interesting. They introduced Madcap Moss with the doofus hat and the goddamn yellow suspenders. Jesus H. Christ. Madcap Moss. As long as the check's clear, man. It was not like you had a giant future anywhere right now. You can work your way out of it. Do Madcap Moss a couple of months, knock it out of the park. They're going to get bored with it, and you'll have an opportunity to do something else. I promise. But he looks like a gangster, but he's a laughing idiot Batman villain. It's ridiculous. This whole thing is ridiculous, especially this Happy Corbin stuff. I'll talk about the draft. Let's talk about the draftees right now. So Charlotte was drafted to SmackDown. Was not really all that surprised that she was the number 1 overall draft pick for the women. It says Fox knows who the queen is. And she intends to prove that to everyone. This will take us to the main event, because Charlotte was involved with the main event, because nobody can get over when Charlotte's around. All right, so let's talk about that main event. Bianca Belair versus Sasha Banks in a WrestleMania rematch. And this match was actually quite good. It took me a while because Bianca Belair had like 2 big botches in this match, and I was deeply concerned about her performance level. The first was the gorilla press. She usually can pick up Sasha Banks pretty easily, but in this match, it's like something went wrong. Maybe her arm gave out, and she ended up slamming Sasha very hard, and Sasha was not ready for it. And you could tell her head bounced off the mat. It was an oof spot. That shit was ugly. It was almost Warrior level. And, Bianca did a great job of, kind of just going on with it like it was planned that way. But, of course, it wasn't. But the second was that forearm where Sasha Banks bounced off her own neck and rolled outside the ring. And I just looked at that shit like, oh, my God. Oh, my God. Like, she blasted her with that forearm. She laid that goddamn forearm in. And I don't know if Sasha wanted to take a neck bump, but she skidded on her neck and ended up outside the ring. And I was like, okay, is she paralyzed? Or because that joint was ugly. But obviously she was fine. The rest of the match went along just fine. The rest of the match was pretty good. Finish came with Becky Lynch outside the ring doing commentary, once again being a distraction. She grabs Bianca Belair's hair, very nonchalantly tucking it under her armpit so the referee couldn't see it, and the crowd and most other people couldn't see it. Bianca couldn't move because her hair is attached to her head. Then she gets rolled up by Sasha Banks and pinned. Before Bianca can do anything else, here comes Charlotte, kicking everybody in the face, knocking everybody down, and obviously, clearly, the only person who can get over when Charlotte is around is Charlotte. So Sasha Banks wins the match. Her and Bianca are 1-1. This is a solid match, really good match. Didn't have any problems with the match. I had a problem with the finish, though. Becky Lynch being the reason that Bianca Belair lost is perfectly fine. Could have saw it coming, though. I thought this match was going to end in disqualification, if we're being honest. When I first saw it announced, I was like, okay, this disqualification bait. I just see it coming. But they did distraction roll up instead. Whatever. But now they have both champions on SmackDown. And they mentioned that right before the show went off the air. So I'm guessing they're teasing something. Are they teasing the finishing of business between Charlotte and Becky? The idea or the implication, perhaps, is that they could add Charlotte to the triple threat match and make it title for title, and the winner take all. A match reminiscent of WrestleMania. I guess you could do that. They probably won't. I don't see why they would. I'm guessing that, we're just going to have Charlotte and Becky take over and push everybody else down the card because, Charlotte. This almost set the stage for Becky to get drafted to Raw and for them to swap the titles. And kind of like what they did with the Street Profits and the New Day. But I'm guessing that they're not going to give up their belts. And I think, it would be weird for them to do that. It was weird when they did it last year. They just said, oh, we're just going to have you guys swap titles. And not going to, I think they should lose them. In my draft video, I said I believe somebody from Raw should actually beat Charlotte. And the only person I could think of is Bianca Belair. Because, she's the only one, she's the only real option you got. Or Shayna Baszler, which, somebody just came to my mind just now. But Shayna Baszler, I don't know if they still doing things with her. I'm not entirely sure how that's going to work out. But there's also the idea that they could do a fatal four-way winner take all with Charlotte, Becky, Bianca, and Sasha. Which is fine. If that's what they wanted to do, that would be fine. I wouldn't do that personally. Because it doesn't make any sense to have one women's champion on two brands. As a matter of fact, for some people, they may think it's fine, but I don't like the traveling champion idea. They never actually travel. The women's tag team titles usually spend an inordinate amount of time on Raw. Now the champions have been drafted to Raw, and because Raw has so much time, there's so much other stuff to do. But I'm not surprised at all that Charlotte stands tall at the end of the night, because why not? She's Charlotte. So the other draftee of the night was Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre was very, very excited. Says that he's proud of his achievements and that he started on SmackDown. He started on SmackDown as the chosen one, and feels like there's some unfinished business between him and winning titles on SmackDown. He says, but SmackDown has been waiting for somebody to flip the table, to stand up to folks who have been standing behind their family and being protected by their family. Wants to be the Universal Champion, which is, it's classic storytelling, as far as McIntyre being the guy to beat Roman. And I think he probably will be, if they're not going to be able to do the Rock thing, which everybody keeps talking about. And I'm always on the fence about stuff like that, guys coming in, Cena or Rock or whatever. Until these people actually show up, I'm kind of on the fence about all that stuff. I say play with the toys that you got and don't worry about the toys that are out there floating around. So I think that they should prepare. If it's going to be Drew McIntyre is going to be the guy that's going to beat Roman Reigns, then they need to build him like the guy that's going to beat Roman Reigns. I mean, is it disappointing that it's not going to be somebody spank brand new? Sure, but it's still a long form story. It still makes sense for it to be Drew, because they had interactions last year when Drew was the WWE champion and Roman won that match. So he's owed one. And Drew hasn't beaten Roman Reigns yet anyway. At least I don't believe he has. So it's a double story where when he was the WWE champion, Roman beat him. And he beat him at WrestleMania 35 as well. So he's never beaten Roman. And Roman is unbeatable at this stage of his career. It's an interesting story for them to tell, where Drew McIntyre finally gets what he was built for, which is that huge WrestleMania moment in front of a full building, and he gets that great sign of approval where he beats Roman Reigns to win the title. If that's where we're going with this, I like it. I say go for it. Do that. That makes sense to me. Let's do it. All right, so let's talk about something else that is absolutely awesome. Edge and Seth Rollins. These guys are killing it. They are killing it. Edge shows up, gets a great reaction. Then he kind of hits us with something nostalgia, saying that he's the only guy in the company now that was on the original episode of SmackDown. I'm not sure if that's true. I think Jeff Hardy was also on the first episode of SmackDown. But he says Raw will be a challenge, but it's new challengers, and he's looking forward to that. But he says that, he got stretched out of the world's most famous arena, and that Seth Rollins knows that he's not cleared. He's not 100%. Keeps challenging him to matches, but he says, I'm the kind of man that answers a challenge. Then on the big screen shows up Seth Rollins. And Seth Rollins says to Edge, the Edge, he's glad Edge showed up. And the Edge is saying words, but he's not saying the right words. You're not retiring. You're not saying that Seth Rollins is not Edge light. You're not saying the words that I wanted you to say. But, I don't believe you. And because you're a liar. And so while you're at SmackDown, good for you, I'm not. So where am I? I am at Edge's house. And it was, now it was kind of weird because, of course, it's a completely empty house. But this was great. So now you got Seth Rollins. Beth left the door unlocked. She went to the grocery store, didn't lock the doors. And Uncle Seth just showed up, opened the door, and he's in the house. He's wearing this gigantic robe. It's obnoxious. It is obnoxious. And what is even more obnoxious is the suit with the S and the R logo all over the suit. It's like gold and black. It's horrific. It is. It's ugly. It is ugly. It is gaudy, but it is absolutely funny. So he he goes into he walks through the man's house. He's in his refrigerator. Took apples and orange juice. He's drinking orange juice right out of the bottle. The fans actually groan at him drinking orange juice out of the bottle. Everybody understood what violations that is and how gross it is. So he sees the kid's art on the refrigerator. He says that the kid's art is rotten. The kid's not going to be an artist. He strolls through his house, his book bags. His kid's book bags and everything. He goes into the the study where there's a fireplace and a family picture. He talks about how the girls are beautiful and thank God they took after Beth. Then he lays on this man's sofa with his feet up, eating this apple, smacking, laughing, and just talking about how he could stay in this man's house all night. And then, of course, when he was done with the apple, he threw it on the floor. He just threw it on the floor. Like, I thought they was going to do something like, wow, disrespectful. Like him flipping the tables over, him trying to set the house on fire, him doing creepy stuff in the kids' rooms or something like that. I thought Beth might actually be there. That would have elevated things so much more if Beth would have been there. Maybe the girls didn't need to be there. But, Beth was there. And, but this was fun. This was really fun. It was tame because it's broadcast TV, but it was still pretty fun. It's still a violation for this guy to go into your home. But this is I told you guys before. WWE's booking is stupid, quite stupid, but it's for some reason somehow remarkably consistent. This is similar to when Seth Rollins invaded the Firefly Funhouse, right? When you have these characters, they have what's called a sacred space. It's kind of an area of power. Think of, if you've ever seen Dragon Ball, the room of space and time, where they go into the room of space and time and they come out stronger. If you have a witch or something like that, the Wizard of Oz, you have a room where the Wizard of Oz is in there doing all his stuff. Or you might have the Firefly Funhouse. But, a place where the magician or the mental-based character is cooking up all their base of operations, where their power lies. Superman's fortress of solitude, even though Superman is not a magician. But, you understand what I'm saying? And one of the biggest things that you could do is violate that. Is when you go to the sacred space and you desecrate it, This is why when you see, like when the Muslims took over certain areas, they would destroy temples, and it's like a really big thing. Christians used to do it too, but I'm just saying Muslims because it was pretty well known that they would go to these proto-Muslim areas, and especially if they had female deities or whatever, and they would destroy statues, and they would destroy the temples, and then build mosques. It is just another way of establishing dominance. Some people establish dominance physically, where they physically beat you down and take your stuff. And another way of establishing dominance is to take over your place of worship, take over where you feel safe, to encroach upon that and take it over. It is another way of establishing dominance. So that's essentially what Seth Rollins is doing here. He was emasculated when he was called Edge Light. So now he's essentially taking his power back by going into Edge's house and, eating his fruit and drinking his orange juice. It was very similar to when Seth went into the Firefly Funhouse, because that was an establishing that Seth was very serious about his feud with The Fiend, and that he was not going to play the games that Bray Wyatt wanted to play. He was cutting straight to the chase. He went to the Firefly Funhouse. And it's the same thing here. He's not playing games with Edge. So he's going to show up at Edge's house. It is a way of, if he feels emasculated, his way of getting his power back is to invade your space, to take things that, that you feel that are important to you and violating them. And, it's great stuff. Great stuff. Truly tremendous. Again, they could have done more as far as, he could have sprayed whipped cream all over the house or something like that. He could have made a mess, mixed bleach and ammonia in the kitchen or something like that. He could have done all kinds. He could have spray painted the front of the house. If it was the Attitude Era, he'd probably bust the windows and all that kind of stuff. Beth would have been in there with a knife, get out, get out. That would have been so much more fun. But for what it was, because it's a rare occurrence that guys go into other guys' houses, I liked it. And it's also reminiscent a lot of Edge, who went into John Cena's house. He went into his dad's house, rather. Again, for similar to the same reasons, is that, Edge wanted to emasculate John Cena. So he went into his dad's house and smacked his dad and all that kind of stuff. So it's Edge kind of getting back what he deserved for what he did to John Cena all those years ago. What was it, 15 years ago now? But it's also Seth Rollins trying to get his power back because he was emasculated about being called Edge Light. And it's also a power game where he's showing that, he's very serious about this. And he's laughing the whole time and dancing around and everything. But this is, a very creepy situation, a very serious situation. And I love this. From a storytelling perspective, this is excellent. How do they finish this, though, is my question. Like, what kind of match do you have to blow this feud off? Do you have last man standing? Do you have an I quit match? I'm guessing that's what it have to be, right? It have to be I quit. Do they do it in Saudi? Because he does go to Saudi. I was about to say, does Edge even go to Saudi? There hasn't been a Saudi since he came back, so at least I don't think so. Does he strike you as the kind of guy who's going to Saudi Arabia? Seth Rollins will go. But, they have options. They have 3 weeks to figure it out. But I love this feud. I love both of these guys. Seth Rollins is becoming, once again, he's almost back to being my favorite wrestler in the WWE roster. Roman is up there too. But I really, really enjoy Seth Rollins. And I always have, except for that 2018-2019 era. I was not a fan of that. But he is a great mix of personality and athleticism. He can have the work, but he also has a personality. He has a character. When he's allowed to say things that make sense, he can say things that make sense. But that was fun. Rollins, Edge, super fun. All right, so Edge from there, he calls Beth, and then he says, he tells her not to go home. He says, whatever you do, go to your brother's house. Do not go home. Don't go home. And then he says he's going to call Daniel and David. I'm like, are we going to get to see who Daniel and David are? No, of course not. Pat McAfee is yelling, like, this is the most casual B&E ever. He said, don't call Daniel and David, call the cops. Asheville, North Carolina is a Black Lives Matter city, bruh. What you calling the cops for? They ain't coming. Um, they ain't coming. In any event, that was a great segment. I enjoyed that segment. It was awesome. So we get this absolute nothingness. Carmella and Liv Morgan. I told you guys when I did the Extreme Rules review, they're just going to do this match again. I say that, right? Now, the thing is, they didn't do the match again. They prepared us to do the match again. They rang the bell. Liv Morgan threw a forearm, a not very good one, nailed Carmella in the face. Carmella bails outside the ring again. Says that she's tired of Liv Morgan trying to break her beautiful face and that she's going to take care of this. And so she has a team of, I don't know, hairdressers, makeup artists or whatever, put her in a mask. So she puts on a mask. She looks absolutely ridiculous. The crowd chants, "You look stupid. You look stupid." They get into the ring. She knocks out Liv Morgan and then takes the mask off. After all the trouble they went to put the mask on her, as soon as she gets Liv Morgan down, she takes the mask off. And I'm guessing Carmella's going to wrestle in a mask from now on. You know, it's going to be a mask to protect her beautiful face. So, oddly enough, I like it. I like it. It's interesting. You know, it's different. It's not going to protect her. Like, it should be like metallic or plastic or something like that. It looks like a cloth luchador mask. Or it looks just like that mask Randy Orton wore when his face got burned by Alexa Bliss. It looks almost the exact same. So it's they need to freak it out a little bit, like bedazzle it. I think it matched her outfit this time. So I'm okay with, you know, luchador Carmella. I'm cool with it. You know, it's interesting. It's for a good reason. But, you know, it's trying to protect her beautiful face. It's, you know, so if it didn't make Carmella more interesting, it got over immediately. As soon as she put it on and she got in the ring, people were like, "You look stupid." Clap, 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 immediately. So you ain't got to worry about it getting over. As soon as she have to put the mask on to start the match or something like that, it's going to get over. I'm still not sure what she's feuding with Liv Morgan about, though. I'm not sure what they're feuding for. I still don't know. So the only other match on the show was the New Day and the Street Profits versus the Dirty Dogs and the Alpha Academy. The New Day and the Street Profits win. It was a pretty high energy match. Nothing gained, nothing lost. It is what it is. So I'm sure there's people going to be complaining about the draft, especially where people were drafted. I didn't look. I was not interested enough to peek at Twitter during SmackDown this time. I was frustrated for my own reasons when it came to the draft. I do have a draft video. I don't know if it's going to be up before this or afterwards. I was very frustrated with the draft because it didn't make sense to me. But the show itself had very little wrestling on the show. But it really only had 3 matches out of the whole 2-hour show. You know. So there's WWE for you. But most of the stuff they did outside the ring was pretty good. Except the draft. The draft sucked. But the Roman stuff was really good. The Edge and Seth stuff was really good. And then some of the in-ring stuff wasn't bad either. You know, because Bianca and Sasha, outside of 2 spots, was really good. So it was a solid episode of SmackDown. You know, can't wait for the season premiere where they do the tournaments. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Like this video, share this video, subscribe to the channel, and donate to the channel. Thank you guys for your time, man. And I'll talk to you guys later.